passed 42 restrictive voting laws. Hakeem has stood up against voter suppression and the new Jim Crow era every step of the way. As we begin a new Congress, we need a leader who believes in strengthening democracy, who understands that to cast a vote is a sacred responsibility that should be afforded to the many, not the privilege for the select few. Hakeem understands that in order for us to become a more perfect union, we can't deny the voices of individuals in a democratic process. Madam Clerk, today we affirm our support of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and nominate Madam Clerk, and that's why I am directed by the Democratic Caucus to advance the name of Hakeem Jeffries from New York as Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to place in nomination the name of Byron Donalds of Florida.
The gentleman is recognized.
I want to begin by saying how much I have anticipated the gentleman from Michigan's arrival in this House, not in the Senate, not in the old staid, unchanging Senate, but in the House where we make change. Yesterday, we could have elected the first black Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Bring it. Bring it. Hear me clearly. Hear me clearly. Had the cascade of votes begun, it would have extended to every member of this body. It could begin today. Last night, I sat within feet of Mr. Donalds as the tweet of another member-elect appeared on the screen. That member-elect wrote and sent out to America that Byron Donalds is a prop. I've spent a good bit of time with Mr. Donalds, especially lately. He ain't no prop. And if he were a prop, he wouldn't be sitting where he's sitting. This is the tired, old, grotesquely racist rhetoric that we've seen far too long. Today, a member-elect quote-tweeted a Fox News story that incorrectly reported that I said that if I don't prevail on the question before the House, I will resign. That member-elect quote-tweeted that incorrect story for his own political purposes after the story had been corrected and the actual statement contradicting that report had been provided. This is the old trafficking in lies from Washington that the American people know far too well. And by the way, I'm not leaving. Kevin McCarthy released to the public on New Year's Eve a document entitled Restoring the People's House and Ending Business as Usual. To his great credit, Mr. McCarthy made a statement of huge significance to the country. The nominal leader of a major party acknowledged publicly that this institution is broken, and he committed to make change to fix it. So let me help my colleagues in the minority understand we are doing the people's business. That's what these 3 days have been about. 3 days. We are committed to make change to this institution that has lost its way. It is epitomized in the $1.7 trillion omnibus rammed through this institution just 2 weeks ago. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I came to fix this broken system. America has seen that problem for a very long time, too. The commitment to change it is new. The genesis of the prospect of changing it emerges from this moment and those since June that led at long last to the New Year's Eve statement of Mr. McCarthy and to these 3 days on the floor. America needs men and women of courage to do something new in Congress so that Congress can serve the American people. The Lord said, "Behold, I do a new thing." We need more Byron Donaldses. I know Byron. He's not a prop. He's a man of personal conviction. He arrived at his convictions through authentic and genuine life experience. People ask me, what is the end game? How does this end? The answer to this question is that this is a dynamic process. All of the decisions on this floor result from the coming together of minds, one way or another. This is the people's business. We will resolve the people's business. And when we do, we will go to the mat for the American people. Because we will be led by people of conviction, like the gentleman from Florida, Byron Donalds. I yield back.
The reading clerk will call the roll. Adams, Jeffries, Adderholt, McCarthy, Aguilar, Jeffries, Alford,
McCarthy. Allen. McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amadei. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Barragan. Barragan. Bean of Florida.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Beatty. Jeffries. Bentz. McCarthy. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Beyer. Jeffries. Bice. McCarthy. Biggs. Donalds. Bilirakis. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Donalds. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Donalds. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost. McCarthy. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Burkeen. Donalds. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. McCarthy. Bouchon. McCarthy. Baczynski. Jeffries. Burchett. Burchett. Burgess. McCarthy. Burleson. McCarthy. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. McCarthy. Kamek. McCarthy. Caraveo. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. McCarthy. Carl. McCarthy. Carson. Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. McCarthy. Carter of Louisiana. Jeffries. Carter of Texas. Carter of Texas. McCarthy. Cartwright. Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez DeReamer. McCarthy. Sherfilis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Cicilline. Jeffries. Ciscobani. McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. Donalds. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. Donalds. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. McCarthy. Collins. McCarthy. Comer. McCarthy. Connolly. Jeffries. Correa. Jeffries. Costa. Costa. Jeffries. Courtney. Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Donalds. Crawford. McCarthy. Crenshaw. Crenshaw. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. Curtis. McCarthy. Davids of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. McCarthy. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. Dela Cruz. McCarthy. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. McCarthy. D'Esposito. McCarthy. Diaz-Balart. McCarthy. Dingle. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. Donalds. Duarte. McCarthy. Duncan. McCarthy. Dunn of Florida. McCarthy. Edwards. McCarthy. Elsie. McCarthy. Emmer. Emmer. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshoo. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries. Estes. McCarthy. Evans. Jeffries. Ezell. McCarthy. Fallon. McCarthy. Finstra. McCarthy. Ferguson. McCarthy. Finstad. McCarthy. Fischbach. McCarthy. Fitzgerald. McCarthy. Fitzpatrick. McCarthy. Fleischman. McCarthy. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. McCarthy. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. McCarthy. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin. McCarthy. Frost. Jeffries. Fry. McCarthy. Fulcher. McCarthy. Gates. Trump. Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego. Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez. Jeffries. Good of Virginia. Donalds. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. Donalds. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. McCarthy. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee. McCarthy. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. McCarthy. Griffith. McCarthy. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. McCarthy. Guest. McCarthy. Guthrie. McCarthy. Hageman. Hageman. Harder of California. Jeffries. Harris. Donalds. Harshbarger. McCarthy. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana. McCarthy. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. McCarthy. Himes. Jeffries. Henson. McCarthy. Horsford. Jeffries. Houchin. McCarthy. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. McCarthy. Hunt. McCarthy. Issa. McCarthy. Ivey. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas. McCarthy. Jackson Lee. Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. McCarthy. Jayapal. Jeffries. 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 Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kemlogger Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kana. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee. Jeffries. Kylie McCarthy. Kilmer Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLoida. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. McCarthy. LaTurner. McCarthy. Lawler. McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk. McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Lukemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. Luna. Donalds. Luttrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McLean. McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. McCarthy. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks. Jeffries. Menendez. Jeffries. Ming. Jeffries. User. McCarthy. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. Miller of Illinois. Donalds. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks. McCarthy. Mills. Mills. Molinaro. McCarthy. Molinar. McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah. McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli.
Mr. Jeffries.
Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. Nagoose. Jeffries. Nels. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. Donalds. None of Iowa. McCarthy. Obernolte. McCarthy. Ocasio-Cortez. Jeffries. Ogles. Donalds. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. McCarthy. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. McCarthy. Panetta. Jeffries. Pappas. Jeffries. Pasquarel. Jeffries. Payne. Jeffries. Pelosi. Jeffries. Peltola. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence. McCarthy. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. Perry. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. McCarthy. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. Reschenthaler. Rogers of Washington. McCarthy. Rogers of Alabama. McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rose. McCarthy. Rosendale. Donalds. Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. McCarthy. Roy. Donalds. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupersberger. Jeffries. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. McCarthy. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. Santos. McCarthy. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Jeffries. Sukowski. Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Snyder. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Swikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. Austin Scott. David Scott. Jeffries. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. Donalds. Sessions. McCarthy. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson. McCarthy. Slotkin. Jeffries. Smith of Missouri. McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. McCarthy. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spamberger. Jeffries. Sparts. Sparts. Stansberry. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stauber. McCarthy. Steele. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Style. McCarthy. Stubbe. McCarthy. Stevens. Jeffries. Stewart. McCarthy. Strickland. Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. McCarthy. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Tiffany. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Titus. Jeffries. Tlaib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trone. Jeffries. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo. McCarthy. Van Drew. McCarthy. Van Dyne. McCarthy. Van Orden. McCarthy. Vargas. Vargas. Jeffries. Velasquez. Vasquez. Jeffries. Vesey. Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg. McCarthy. Waltz. McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas. McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Winstrup. McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. McCarthy. Williams of Texas. McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Yackham. McCarthy. Zinke. McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the members-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Berrigan. Jeffries. Burchett. McCarthy. Crenshaw. McCarthy. Donalds. Donalds. Emmer. McCarthy. Hageman. McCarthy. Mills. McCarthy. Perry. Perry. Rushenthaler. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. Sparts. Present.
If there are any representatives elect who did not answer the call of the roll, they may come to the well and vote at this time.
Susan. Yes, hang on, let's get.
Perry, you are not recorded. You are not recorded. Donalds.
The tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 433, of which the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212. The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 201. The Honorable Byron Donalds of the state of Florida has received 19. The Honorable Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 1. With 1 recorded as present. No member-elect having received the majority of the votes cast, a speaker has not been elected. For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida rise?
Rise to nominate Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized.
I think at this point we've all heard about Kevin McCarthy in length. He is my friend, my colleague. I'm very proud to say that. I know our remarks are directed towards the clerk and the chair, but I don't mind saying I'm directing my remarks to another part of our team. And make no mistake, we are a team. We are together. I would say this to some of my friends in Texas. I have the same fear, truly, that some of you have, that we squander this opportunity to right the wrongs that have gone on here for the last 2 and 4 years, and there are very real wrongs. I have that fear, just like you do. I'd say to my friend from Montana, I would say that I have the same fear you do, that America's given us this chance to change our course and that we fail. I have that fear. I would say to my friends from Arizona, I have the same fears that you do. That we don't recover from the indifference that has been shown to the honor we have to serve here, to the responsibility we have to safeguard our Constitution and the freedoms of Americans. I have that fear that it can't be recovered from. I would say to my friend, the general from Pennsylvania, that I have the same fears that he has, that we squander what our brothers and sisters in arms have sacrificed for. I stand differently because of sacrifice. My friend from Texas, Mr. Crenshaw, when he looks out at the world, he sees the world differently because of what he sacrificed for. My friend Jim Baird, when he extends a hand, he extends it differently because of what he sacrificed for during his service in Vietnam. We have so many in this body that gave so much, sacrificed so much to support and defend the Constitution of our United States. And I fear that we don't live up to what some of our friends and brothers and sisters in arms have very literally given their lives for. And I don't mind saying that on occasion that absolutely brings a tear to my eye. Because it does. It's not for that. My friend from Texas, my colleague, Mr. Roy, he and I, we've stood on this floor together, arguing on the same team about life and death issues for the United States of America, with so few people in here that you could hear an echo. That's sad. That's not living up to our friends. I've sat in classified briefings with the general from Pennsylvania, minimally attended on both sides, with issues that absolutely matter to the safeguarding of every person within our borders and our service members abroad. We can do better than that, and we will. But I would say to my friends, those issues that we deal with like that you've spoken passionately about, I've heard your speeches, I've sat and listened to them, they can't be fixed by our friend Andy, and they can't be fixed by our friend Kevin, or our friend Jim, or our friend Byron. That comes from inside each and every one of us. To change what we prioritize, to change how we choose to spend our time, given this opportunity, this honor to serve in this place. My friend Mr. Roy has been very proud of the number of individuals that are in here, saying that this is how the process should play out, and I totally agree with him on that. But we don't control whether individuals in here are sitting on their cell phones, scrolling through whatever social media, or whether they're actually paying attention to the issues. The speaker can't change that. That's up to the individual. That's something that we have to look at each other and sharpen each other and make each other better. When we started this process months ago, behind closed doors, as leadership for the minority was being chosen behind closed doors, leadership for the majority was being talked about and debated and chosen behind closed doors, I said to my friend, Mr. McCarthy, I said, please don't look at us and see me as your friend, or all of us as your friends. Don't look at us and see us as your colleagues. Don't look at us and see us as individuals that are votes for Speaker of the House. Look at us as individuals that are looking out to our communities, our neighborhoods, our friends, our neighbors, in our country, and telling them that we vouch for you, because that is what we are doing. We are vouching for you, and I couldn't be more proud to stand here today and vouch for you, my friend. I vouch to my community that Kevin will do as he was promised. He will give us the opportunity to write the course. He will give us the opportunity to vote. He won't control how every individual votes, but he will give us the opportunity to make sure that we have smart energy policy between the Atlantic and the Pacific that makes sense for Americans, to make sure that he protects our border, protects Americans, to make sure that we don't spend what we don't have on a credit card, that we don't spend wastefully. I'm vouching for my friend that he will give us that opportunity to make sure that we don't have endless terms here in the House of Representatives. I vouch that he will deliver that opportunity to us. I'm proud to stand before my country and say that Kevin McCarthy is different. He is different. That is why, for those that I was speaking to earlier, the process is where it is today. He's different. He's not Paul Ryan. He's not going to tell you about you'll get a term limits bill and then you won't. He's not Mitch McConnell. He fought against the $1.7 trillion wasteful spending package that was sent to us on New Year's Eve. That's not him. He's different. He's not John Boehner. He didn't throw you all that disagreed with him out on your cans and say, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to listen to you. He welcomed everybody in because he's different. And if we give him the chance to be our speaker, We will all be different. He will be different. This Congress will be different, and our country will be different. And I stand before you today and say, at the direction of the Republican Conference, I advance the name of Kevin McCarthy very proudly as the next Speaker of the House.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Massachusetts rise?
I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
212, 212, 212, 212, 212, 212, and today, 212. House... 212 House Democrats stand united behind our leader because Hakeem Jeffries stands united for the American people. The historic dysfunction that we are seeing, this intra-party fight that the American people have been drawn into, is imperiling our national security. It will imperil the ability of this government to deliver basic services. It is imperiling our jobs and our responsibility to serve our constituents. But it is also entirely predictable. They're failing to convene Congress today, but for years they have failed to deliver the votes for the American people. When schools and small businesses needed to reopen and the American people wanted vaccines, they said no. When we capped insulin costs for seniors at $35 a month, they said no. When we lowered health care costs and premiums for working families, they said no. When we defended the civil rights of LGBTQ plus Americans, they said no. When we protected lives from senseless gun violence, especially in the wake of the horrors of Buffalo and Uvalde, they said no. When we stood up for women and reproductive freedom, they said no. When we brought manufacturing back to America, they said no. When we answered the urgent call to protect our planet and invest in clean energy and create tens of millions of good-paying jobs, they said no. When we said women deserve equal pay for equal work, they said no. When we said that childcare and paid family leave should be available to every worker in this country, to every family, they said no. When we secured the fundamental right to vote for every single American, they said no. When we stood by our veterans and expanded their access to health care, they said no. When we defended our democracy 2 years ago tomorrow from a tyrannical president following the January 6th insurrection, they said no. House Democrats will stand together. We will stand for the American people. It is our job and our responsibility to elect a speaker who stands with them, and with great pride, I nominate Hakeem Jeffries.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona rise?
I rise to place into nomination the name of my friend from Florida, Byron Donalds, for the Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized.
I appreciate that. You know, we're coming off an election. Just 2 months ago, a little less than 2 months ago, actually. And what did that election tell us? Well, when there were 5 million more Republicans who cast their ballots, it told us that the American public wanted a change. They wanted a change from the policies of the left that has taken over the Democrat Party. It said they wanted a change from this administration that has inflicted so much pain economically. We've seen crime explode. We've got an administration that won't even acknowledge that there's a crisis on the border. I tell you to go on down to the border. I've invited this administration to come with me to the border. Let's see it firsthand. The American public said they want to change. They want something new. They want something different. And we are on a path that just continues. Where were we just 12 years ago? An $11 trillion national debt. You know where we are today? Almost 3 times that. Both parties share blame in that. We have to bring that under control. You bring that under control not just by changing the rules of an institution, but by changing the leadership. And I'm told this process is painful. It's embarrassing, I'm told. You know what it is? It's not dysfunction, and it's not imperiling. What it is the exchange of ideas, an expression of support for people you want to be your leader in the next Congress. I think it's incredibly healthy, actually, for the American people to see that we're on the floor, something that my colleagues across the aisle so rarely like to be. They enjoy the proxy voting, I guess. They've sat there, I'll give it to you. They've laughed and they've chuckled and they've pointed fingers at us and said, oh, see here. But you know what? As my friend from Florida just said, we're together. We're having an internal fight. It's being displayed. I wish it wasn't necessarily being displayed, but the American people could see it. But I could tell you this. When this is over and done with, I know which side of the aisle is going to be laughing. And it's going to be the side that is unified in taking on the issues that Americans care about. The issues that this side has not only ignored, but has put upon the American people. We used to be energy independent. It seems so long ago. It was 2 years ago, actually. We're going to restore America to energy independence. You know how you reduce inflation? You stop devaluing your currency. You stop blowing out the waters by spending $1.7 trillion on an omnibus bill that has how many thousands of earmarks in it? You start taking on crime. You start fighting violence. You start fighting the overgrowth of our budget and restore our economy. You start incentivizing jobs. You recognize that the American middle class is being squeezed, and those who are with more difficult economic circumstances are being squeezed by an economy that has this inflation that attacks energy. You bring your border back under control, and this side is going to bring that border security under control. We recognize it's a crisis. It's a crisis when in 2020, the Yuma sector had 9,000 encounters, not for a 5-day period, but for an entire fiscal year. Under this administration, with these policies, that 9,000 encounters is about a 5-day period in the human sector today. You don't know what it's like unless you see that happening. We're on a suboptimal path. It has to change. And to make a change, it can be difficult. It can be short-term, uncomfortable. But when you move to the correct path, all of a sudden things ease up and you can start having success. The direction here, in my opinion, is to someone like a Byron Donalds, a man who is living the American dream and is the example and the mentor for millions who need hope. Here is a man that has worked his way up. He is not a novice. He has the experience. He has the chops to be the speaker. He is a man. He has a lovely family, and they are politically engaged. They know what's going on. He has worked in Florida politics. He's worked in the legislature. He has respect. He has the quiet confidence that a leader needs. I look around this body today, and I know it's hard for you to believe. I know it's hard for me to believe sometimes when I'm here and I have the great honor and privilege of serving with you. But you represent the cross-section of America, the great American experiment. The experience that you bring, the knowledge that you bring, is unique. The road to recovery is through this body. I believe if you want to make change, you have to make change. Maintaining status quo is not an option today. I believe we've reached an existential crisis in this country. I look across and I see the left has captured virtually every institution. It is time that we reassert ourselves and put America back on the road to recovery. And the person who I think is most capable and will do the most credible job to lead us back that way is my friend from Florida, the Honorable Byron Donalds, whom I am pleased and proud to nominate as the next Speaker of the House of Representatives.
The reading clerk will call the roll. Ready? Teresa?
Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. McCarthy. Allen. Allen. Allred. Jeffries. Amodei. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Barragan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida. McCarthy. Beatty. Beatty. Jeffries. Bentz. McCarthy. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Beyer. Jeffries. Bice. McCarthy. Biggs. Donalds. Bilirakis. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Bishop of North Carolina. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Hearn. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bast. McCarthy. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Burkeen. Burkeen. Hearn. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. McCarthy. Bouchon. McCarthy. Budzinski. Jeffries. Burchett. McCarthy. Burgess. McCarthy. Burleson. McCarthy. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. McCarthy. Kamek. Kamek. McCarthy. Caraveo. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. McCarthy. Carl. McCarthy. Carson. Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. McCarthy. Carter of Louisiana. Jeffries. Carter of Texas. McCarthy. Cartwright. Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez DeReamer. McCarthy. Shearfilis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Cicilline. Jeffries. Ciscomani. McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. Cloud. Donalds. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. Donalds. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. McCarthy. Collins. McCarthy. Comer. McCarthy. Connolly. Jeffries. Correa. Jeffries. Costa. Jeffries. Courtney. Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Donalds. Crawford. McCarthy. Crenshaw. McCarthy. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. McCarthy. Davids of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. McCarthy. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. De la Cruz. McCarthy. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio, Jeffries. DeSaulnier, Jeffries. Desjardins, McCarthy. D'Esposito, McCarthy. Diaz-Balart, McCarthy. Dingle, Jeffries. Doggett, Jeffries. Donalds, Donalds. Duarte, McCarthy. Duncan, McCarthy. Dunn of Florida, McCarthy. Edwards, McCarthy. Elsie, McCarthy. Emmer, McCarthy. Escobar, Jeffries. Eshoo, Jeffries. Espaillat, Jeffries. Estes, McCarthy. Evans, Jeffries. Ezell, McCarthy. Fallon, McCarthy. Feenstra, McCarthy. Ferguson, McCarthy. Finstad, McCarthy. Fishbach, McCarthy. Fitzgerald, McCarthy. Fitzpatrick, McCarthy. Fleischman, McCarthy. Fletcher, Jeffries. Flood, McCarthy. Foster, Jeffries. Fushi, Jeffries. Fox, Lois Frankel, Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin, McCarthy. Frost, Jeffries. Fry, McCarthy. Fulcher, McCarthy. Gates, Trump. Gallagher, McCarthy. Gallego, Jeffries. Garamendi, Jeffries. Garbarino, McCarthy. Mike Garcia, McCarthy. Robert Garcia, Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois, Jeffries. Garcia of Texas, Jeffries. Jimenez, McCarthy. Golden of Maine, Jeffries. Goldman of New York, Jeffries. Gomez, Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez, McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez, Jeffries. Good of Virginia, Donalds. Gooden of Texas, McCarthy. Gosar, Donalds. Gottheimer, Jeffries. Granger, McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana, McCarthy. Graves of Missouri, McCarthy. Green of Tennessee, McCarthy. Green of Texas, Jeffries. Green of Georgia, McCarthy. Griffith, McCarthy. Grijalva, Jeffries. Grothman, McCarthy. Guest, McCarthy. Guthrie, McCarthy. Hageman, McCarthy. Harder of California, Jeffries. Harris, Harris. Donalds. Harshbarger, McCarthy. Hayes, Jeffries. Hearn, McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana, McCarthy. Higgins of New York, Jeffries. Hill, McCarthy. Himes, Jeffries. Henson, McCarthy. Horsford, Jeffries. Houchin, McCarthy. Houlihan, Jeffries. Hoyer, Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon, Jeffries. Hudson, Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman, Jeffries. Huizinga, McCarthy. Hunt, Hunt. Issa, Issa. McCarthy. Ivy, Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois, Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina, Jeffries. Jackson of Texas, McCarthy. Jackson Lee, Jeffries. Jacobs, Jeffries. James, McCarthy. Jayapal, Jeffries. Jeffries, Jeffries. Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Camlogger Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Khanna. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. McCarthy. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLota. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. Lamborn. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. McCarthy. LaTurner. McCarthy. Lawler. McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk. McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Luetkemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. Donalds. Luttrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McLean. McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. McCarthy. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks. Jeffries. Menendez. Jeffries. Meng. Jeffries. Muser. McCarthy. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. Miller of Illinois. Donalds. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks. McCarthy. Mills. McCarthy. Molinaro. McCarthy. Molinar. McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah. McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli.
Mr. Jeffries.
Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler.